This video is part of the Knowledge Center's Purchasing Instructional Guide on the configuration for admin properties in the 11.0 release of Uninet Financials. As a quick review, I wanted to share with you in the Knowledge Center there is a workbook that's available for download right alongside this video that actually compares the 10.3 functionality admin properties to the 11.0 properties and lets you know what the change is, whether it has been moved to a new section or whether it's actually a whole brand new property for you. So you're welcome to have that download if you want. In the meantime, what I wanted to share with you is 3 sections within the admin properties dashboard. And on the approval process, there's an entire new section called approval process. And then there's a new section called purchasing. And then a quick review of the Uninet section up at the very top. So you're welcome to guide along yourself in the system. So I'm logged in as a user that has system administrator role, and I'm on the home dashboard, which is here in the top left corner. And from here, I'm going to navigate to the admin dashboard. And under the admin, I'm going to go all the way down to properties. This is in the same location as it has always been. But under the admin properties, a couple of things I'll share with you if you had not known about this. If you're not sure where something has moved to, which section it's in, you can always use the top right area for view all property settings. And this is a nice little area where from here you can just do a control-find on your keyboard and look for the property setting that might be of interest to you. There's also a print-friendly version of this that if you wanted to print out your 10.3 version before you move up to 11.0, it might be a nice quick reference for you as well. Just edit property settings to go back to the property settings. So the 3 sections that I wanted to share with you is up here in this Uninet section, the approval process section, and then all the way down here in the purchasing section. Let's go ahead and start up here with this new section called approval process. And in 10.3, we had timesheets and expense reports. And however, what we've done now is we've expanded that, and we now have expanded the time into both timesheets and leave. And then we've also expanded expenses into expense reports and expense request. In addition to that, we're also going to see that we have new sections for accounts payable, which would be your vendor invoices, and also your purchase request and your purchase orders. So the settings here for your property settings is just going to, some of these have been moved from different areas in the 10.3, whether they were in the time section or in the approval section or in the property section, somewhere where they were listed before, and they've been moved over here. But here's a couple of the areas here. The one I want to share with you is under approvals. So under approvals, we now have require approvals for timesheets, leave requests, expense reports, and all the way down. You'll see this checkbox gives you the latitude to decide if you want to do approvals for timesheets, but not approvals for leave request. So what we've seen as well is that maybe some customers are going to use purchase request and some customers are not. So these are 2 very distinct approval processes that you can choose to turn on or off. Okay. On the vendor invoice, this one's very nice. This one has a couple of options here. On the vendor invoice, you can select that it's going to always require approval, that it will conditionally require approval, that it's optional, or that it's actually disabled. So there's a couple different options there. Like many places in our property settings, if you just hover over the link that you want to take a look at, you'll see that it's hyperlinked, and you can actually scroll down here and take a look to see what this particular property setting does, and what happens when you check the flag or when you do not check the flag. All right. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple of different settings for you there to pay attention to. On the reviews, so if you want to require management review on the purchase orders, the purchase request or vendor invoice, if you want to actually have them take a look at that review, these are the check boxes for you to do that here. On the project approver review, and if you're using that customer review option, you can use that there. And then under the permissions, we just simply move those from the time and expense side over here to the approval process section. So that's the majority of the areas. The newest things for you here is under approvals, is whether or not you check these flags to force that you're going to do an approval process for purchase request and or purchase orders or the vendor invoice. And then, of course, if you want to separate those for time and leave. All right, let's go down to the new section. The new section down here is under purchasing. So under purchasing, under the general, there's only a couple of options here for you to be concerned with. But on the property setting, we have under purchase request this area here that allows users to delete unapproved purchase request documents. So once a purchase request is added to the system, as long as it's in an in-use status, you will be able to delete it if this box is checked. If you choose to uncheck this box, then you'll never be able to delete any of the purchase requests or purchase orders, because we have it down here as well. You'll be able to close them, disapprove them, but that way they keep the sequential number. So if you have a requirement inside your system to keep the system-generated purchase numbers or the purchase order numbers to be very sequential and have no gaps in them, you'll want to leave this box unchecked. However, if that's not a requirement for you and you want to allow users that have a purchase request or a purchase order in the in-use status, then you can uncheck this or check this box, and it would allow them to delete that. However, keep in mind you will lose that number and it won't come back into the sequence. All right, so again, unapproved PR documents and unapproved PO documents means documents that are in an in-use status. So once it's in the open status or an approved status, that means it's gone through the approval process, you will no longer be able to delete those documents out of the database. However, we can always close them, right? So as long as we have an in-use document, so maybe it's been sent to submitted or maybe it's been disapproved, and those two settings, it can always be returned back to in use, and therefore then it can be deleted. But once it's has made it to the open or approved status for your mods, then you will no longer be able to delete that document regardless of the flag, the check flag here. Okay. This is a really important one that we get asked quite a bit. I want to make sure everybody knows where this one is. So this would allow a user to create a purchase order without a purchase request. So this is an option that you have if your organization is going to always require a request for everything that's purchased, for every purchase order. Then you'll want to uncheck this box, and what that will do is it will require every time a user that has the role of purchaser creates a new purchase order, they will be required to associate an open or approved purchase request with it. If you check this box, you are now giving the purchaser, that's the user that has the purchaser role, you're giving them the freedom, the latitude to make a decision on whether or not they would put that purchase request with that purchase order. So this gives you a little bit more latitude. However, keep in mind that you still have that approval process I shared with you on whether you do an approval process on your purchase order and your purchase request. So there's a little bit of flexibility there for you to configure the system so that it works really, really well for you. And this last one is very simple. Like a lot of the areas, if you just click on it, you can take a look and see what the definition of that particular property setting is. And this one would just be a default email address for any purchase orders that go out. This would be the default that shows up. You can always change it on the actual purchase order, but this would be a default. And if you leave this blank, it'll go down to your system email default. All right, last section is all the way back up at the top. So this is the Uninet section in the general Uninet. I want to take you down to access and permissions. So access and permissions, we have, I think there's about 14 new roles within the system, and of those roles, many of them have organizational access. There's a setting inside the system here that if you choose to default the org access to all, so that when you provide somebody, say for example, if you're going to provide somebody the document manager, it's a new role that we have in the system. If you're going to provide somebody the document manager role, then on org access side, you're going to have a document and a financial org access to provide. If you want those to default into all, then we would check that box. Okay. If you're a customer that has built out your organizational hierarchy, we traditionally find this box to be unchecked so that you have to make a conscious decision on which orgs they would be allowed access to. And however, and if you have not built out your org access, sometimes you would see this box as checked, but it's an option for you to make a decision in your particular system. So I think that covers all of the new enhancements and the new properties in the system. And again, that worksheet that I mentioned to you is available for download. If you would like to download that, and it's just a quick link, it'll tell you where the new property is or where the property has been moved, just to give you a little bit of a visual reference for you. So thank you for participating in the video, and hopefully this information is very useful to you.